Welcome back to Toni Farmer's Garden, the podcast. Today we're going to talk to the owner of a garden center. Valerie Nalls has lived and grown up on her family's garden center in Alexandria, Virginia, and she's got some great tips for us. We're also going to meet Boo Boo the cat and Arnold the pig, believe it or not, and we're going to talk about how you can save money, how they can help you buy the right plants so you have a good investment for your garden, and also if you want to help your garden center, she has a great tip for how you can help them thrive as well. Let's talk about it. All right, welcome, Valerie. It's so nice to meet you too.
You too.
We're like big Instagram friends.
Similar interests. We got this.
Valerie, how long have you owned your garden center? Where is it located?
Gosh, so it's a family garden center. My father started it as a roadside produce market in 1961. It evolved over time into the garden center that it is today. I started working, I was raised there. So I was in apple bins as a kid. I don't know any other life, but we are just outside of Washington, D.C. in Alexandria.
Okay, and this is your busy time. I'm taking you away from work because there's no one busier in April and May than someone who owns a garden center, correct?
You got that right. You got that right.
All right, so I want to make this really helpful for all of my followers. Tell me what really makes it better experience for the customer. Like, for example, if you can come on a Wednesday morning, for example, or anything you want to tell me that's like, you know what, you're going to have a better experience if you do this, this, and this.
Sure. Weekday mornings are gems at a garden center. If you have some random time off from work and you can slide in, particularly at the end of the week on a Thursday or Friday, that's when retailers like us are really getting in our stock for those busy days, those Saturdays and Sundays. So oftentimes you can get the stock level that you would expect on a weekend, but crowd levels that are much more manageable. So sometimes you can really get the very best selection and the best availability of your sales staff if you're able to come on a Thursday or Friday morning, or even a Thursday or a Friday evening. My second tip is to observe your sun exposure in the area that you're going to be working with ahead of time. One of the very first questions that I ask customers as we're trying to find what the best plant is for the site they're working on is, what's the sun exposure like? Does it get full sun, part sun, shade? And nobody's born knowing what those words mean. What's the definition of part sun or shade? So really, we look at full sun being 6 hours or more of direct sun, particularly if it's that hot afternoon sun. Part sun is if it can get in that 4 to 6 hour range, and then anything under 4 hours, we really consider shade.
And is there a way, I understand there's an app on your phone you can use. Do you know anything about that? I haven't tried it.
I haven't tried it either. I'm still a pen and paper kind of girl when I can be. But gosh, there are so many new apps coming out. The plant identification apps are
I love those. Yeah. So I would say, guys, if you're curious about what you just said, I would say a couple days in a row, the minute you get up in the morning, watch where the sun is and note it down, and try and check during the day when the sun, that area is in the shade and what continues to be in the sun, and try and just mark those hours. You will be the most informed consumer when you show up, and you'll buy the right things for your garden center. All right, let's keep going with that. What happens when something fails? So, there's a lot of consumer error out there, so I buy a bunch of stuff, I put it in the wrong area, or I forget to water it, or I water it too much. And what is the right way to approach your garden center when something fails, if you want to bring it back?
That is a fantastic question. First off, kind of assess what the care level was like and where it was installed in your yard. Second, approach it as a learning opportunity. You certainly don't want to get the same thing and have the same outcome. It could be that you had the wrong plant for the area that you were landscaping. It could be that maybe that plant that you picked out is just really, really thirsty and you don't have a lifestyle that can support constant, consistent watering at the beginning of its life like that. So really kind of assess what brought us here. And then bonus points if you can call your garden center ahead of time. Oftentimes they can take care of these things over the phone. If it's a pest or a disease, they may not want you to bring that plant back in their nursery because it's possible that you could be spreading those things to their inventory. So oftentimes you can take care of this over the phone or over email or over social
Or
media with
send a
photos.
picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most garden centers are going to be very willing to work with you. They want you to be successful. And honestly, if you're not an informed consumer when you leave, I take that as that's my responsibility anyway. So if you put the wrong plant in your location or you made the wrong selection, I take ownership in that and I want you to be successful. So I'm going to be pretty generous with replacements, but replacements with coaching.
Sure. So I was going to recommend if someone does need to bring in a diseased leaf or an insect, put it in a plastic bag and zip it closed. I'm not a big fan of using plastic, but there are times when it's necessary because you don't want to spread that all over your garden center and they want to help you. And then the last thing I'll say about that is let's have some integrity here. Like that's who we want to be. If you killed the plant, don't take it back to the garden center and just say, this died, you gave me a bad plant. Like, let's be honest. And then if you really feel like you just don't understand why it died, you're like, I thought I was doing this right, then they're going to be much more open to helping you and they want to see you be successful. So on that note, let's talk about staff. Some garden center staffs are unbelievably informative. What's the best way to use them?
Hmm, that's a great question. Uh, to First off, treat them like people, right? Like we are not robots. While
That's a
we can,
given.
right, while we can be so knowledgeable at whatever our specialty is, we do not know everything about everything, right? So we're not robots, but we dig this stuff. We're in these roles because we love being around plants. We love being in our garden, and you give us a little bit of room to work, and we will talk your ear off because we live and breathe this every day. Second is to have, like I said earlier, to have some clear guidelines as to what you're looking for and the kind of space that you're working with. Because we know so many different plants and so many different ideas, if you have a little bit of an idea, so we can filter down that big, massive that big massive knowledge base that we have, so we can filter it down and kind of distill it into what are the best recommendations for your area. Hugely helpful.
Like maybe don't say, I want to grow all my own food this year. Go.
About how
How
much
about
space do you have? What do you
yes.
like?
How about I would really like to grow a tomato to start or whatever, but they are really full of knowledge and get to know them. So Rosario is my contact at my local garden center. He's there most of the time and I seek Rosario out and I know about his kids and he knows about my family. He hugs me now when I see him. And I know that I can count on him for a lot of stuff. And I know that the seasonal help, like the 17-year-old girl that's working the counter, she really might just be looking for a summer job and doesn't know anything. So just pay attention to the staff and you'll be happier when you seek out and form a relationship with the folks there that have been there forever and really know their stuff. Let's talk about veggies. So I'm doing content for experienced gardeners right now and inexperienced. And a lot of the inexperienced gardeners at this point, I'm saying, just go buy the seedlings. There's still some stuff you can stick in the ground for sure, but your garden center is a great way to just get off to a great start. Everything's going to be beautiful and healthy, and you're going to bring it home and stick it in the ground and have some success. So what are you guys selling right now? Do you have any favorite varieties you want to tell me about?
Okay, so it's the end of April. Now is when your garden center, if you're in like zone 7, mid-Atlantic, like you and I are, that's when your garden center is going to be stuffed with so many of your heat-loving starts. Uh, Peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, cucumber, melons. There's so many that you can work with in your space here.
But we're still watching the calendar, right?
Yeah, you're still watching the calendar. Mother's Day in my growing region is kind of the weekend where you can consider yourself safe. Though the last 10 years, that really in practice has been creeping backwards a bit. And now, really practically speaking, you can kind of get away with more like May 1 here.
Yeah.
With peak in this region being the last week of April and first 2 weeks of May. That's peak selection at the garden center. That doesn't mean that that's when you have to plant it. Really, in this growing region, as long as you get your summer lovers in, tomatoes and peppers mainly, by 4th of July, you'll
Oh,
still get a
that's late.
crop. Yeah, as long as you get in by 4th of July, you'll get harvest.
Let me address that really fast. So people are always asking you and I all the time, what's the date I can plant this? And that's not how we operate. So we look at the frost zone and we say probably between May 1st and May 10th is probably going to be, we're probably out of the woods there. But I pull my phone up and I look at the 10-day forecast, which we're all amazingly lucky enough to have. And if I see any frost in there, I wait, or freezing temps. And if I don't, I'm looking at it 10 days, like say it's April 29th, and I'm looking at it, a 10-day forecast of beautiful weather, I am probably out of the woods. And then the last thing would be if there is a shocker, comes out of nowhere, May 5th, it looks like it's going to get down to 36, which is the frost range. You just take an old bed sheet, you throw it over whatever you planted. That is plenty of coverage, believe it or not, to get you through, because it's not going to go down to 36 for 8 hours. It's going to dip and then come back up, and you just are trying to get it through the wee hours of the night. So, but your garden center staff will absolutely 100%, when you are shopping, they will do that for you. They'll say, you know what? I'd wait another 5 days before I plant this. Keep it inside. Or, nope, you're good. So it's another thing to rely on your garden center staff for.
Absolutely. And to add to that, I would also note that a lot of these heat loving veggies really don't take off and grow until that soil heats up. So by installing them at the very earliest date that you can, you're not necessarily ensuring that they're going to bear earlier because that soil's not really heating up quite yet. If it works better for you as a human to get them in early, sure. But it's not necessarily any sort of major advantage to your garden.
It works better for me emotionally, Valerie, to have them in the ground. I'm like, okay, garden season is here. And I want you guys to remember what she said earlier. Basil and cucumbers do not like the cold. And even if they survive, you might stunt them a little bit. So wait until it's really nice and warm outside for those guys.
In my garden center, I'm so sorry.
No,
In
go
my
ahead.
garden center, my guidelines that I work with my customers on is I say basil, cucumbers, they really don't like any temperatures under 60 degrees. If you
Yeah.
have to wear a coat, they're not going to be happy. So wait
Oh, I
until
love
you
that.
have consistent 60s, where tomatoes, peppers, you can get away with 50s.
Yep. That's a great tip. If you feel like you need a jacket, it's probably not time to put those really warm loving plants out. That's a really good one. But so tell me again, remind me of all the other things, the cold weather crops we can absolutely put in right now. And you could have probably put them in a couple weeks ago.
Sure. So as soon as the weather breaks just a bit in March in my growing region, like very beginning of March, you can start putting in some leafy greens and some brassicas, meaning like some broccoli, cauliflower. The brassicas need time to grow, so you need to make sure that you get those in as early as you can. But really, leafy greens, radishes, they grow so quickly that if you time it right, you can get a whole harvest in that shared space that you're going to be putting your heat lovers. So in March, plant some lettuce, plant some spinach, plant some radishes, maybe a brassica or two.
How about beets and carrots? I often get in the ground at that point.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then you can harvest those and use that same space for your heat lovers without having to have two separate gardens to achieve that.
Do you sell shade cloth or cooling cloth of any kind at your garden center?
That's a good question. I don't. I sell some bird netting, which
Hmm.
oftentimes can be multi-purpose.
Yeah.
It's designed to keep birds off of your fruit trees. But I have been reading more and more about these cooling cloths. They seem pretty neat.
That's why I'm asking. I haven't tried them yet either. I've toyed around with ordering one and just giving it a shot because all those brassicas she just talked about, the cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, they don't like the heat. And we are increasingly getting these shorter springs where just as they look like they're supposed to be ready and you're so excited, it gets really, really hot for a couple days and they start to bolt, which means they separate the heads and they want to make a seed. And then you're like, oh no. So I'm adding that to my list of things I want to try this year. All right, let me remind you too, talk about you keep seeds there too, and ask your garden center folks when you go in, like if you buy lettuce seedlings, ask them to show you where the seeds are too and walk you through how you can put these lettuce seedlings in the ground and then you can follow up planting. Let's talk about succession planting a little bit.
Love to. I think succession planning is an emerging idea for advanced gardeners. Now, our grandparents and people of other generations have been doing succession planting. Farmers have been doing succession planting for years and years and generations. But new gardeners are just once again kind of getting exposed to this idea. There are a handful of particularly direct sow seeds. I would say beans,
Mm.
several herbs, um, squash like zucchini, yellow squash, cucumbers, and if I didn't, peas sometimes
Mhm.
too. You can get another planting out of peas, where if you plan ahead, they're not going to love the whole entire summer. They're going to have a period where they bear really, really well, and then they start to deteriorate. And at that point, your garden center is likely not going to have any seedlings in stock, but these items grow very, very well from direct sow seeds. So if you plant an area of green beans or whatever your favorite herb is, maybe dill, and then maybe 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, you plant another little area of the same item, even though you don't need it yet, it puts it just far enough behind in succession of your original planting that right about the time when you're going to need to rip up and remove your original planting, your secondary planting will be coming into bear. And that's how you can make it so that you have green beans or dill that hasn't gone to seed or yellow squash or whatever it is that you like for a longer period of time instead of, really trying to save these vines that are spent. They gave you all that they're going to give and rip them up. Now you have some new land open for whatever your next planting is. And to that point, we talked earlier about in my growing region, as long as you get tomatoes in by 4th of July, that you can have a really late fall harvest.
Yes.
So, but you can't find tomato plants at a garden center the end of June. At that point, they've moved on to summer annuals. They're looking ahead to fall plantings. So if you buy some extra tomato plants or start some extra tomato seeds in that kind of late spring, early summer period, in my region, everybody's will be slightly different. You can then do a succession planting of tomatoes, which often doesn't cross people's minds. But to do another little second crop of tomato plants to get you, they'll be nice and young and green and spry in August when your original tomato crop is kind of feeling worse for wear after this summer.
So that has never occurred to me before. I work really hard to curb the blight and I'm pretty successful with it. So that hasn't bothered me. But cucumbers and zucchini will go under here. We have both bacterial wilt from the cucumber beetle and we have squash vine borers. And I fight them. I have good strategies. However, sometimes you just lose that battle. But those grow so lightning fast. So I want you to remember this. It's, say it's July and your zucchini just died and your cucumbers are looking like they're right behind it. And you go to the garden center and they don't have any of that stuff. Ask them to direct you to the seeds and grab a couple packets of seeds and stick those in the ground and you'll be shocked, especially because in July it's nice and hot and you keep those seeds wet when you stick them in the ground. They will pop up so fast you won't believe it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And tell me the herbs that you highly recommend people buy already sprouted in your garden center versus the ones that you can easily buy and drop in the ground.
Sure. Rosemary is very hard to grow from seed. I
Yes.
find rosemary seedlings are a great investment where dill, cilantro, basil even grows so well from seeds. I would spend my money on rosemary and probably thyme. I have a little bit of a
Mm-hmm.
hard time getting thyme to come up from.
Oregano. I love how oregano it just lasts forever. You plant oregano and you will have it forever.
Yes, chives also. Chives
Yes.
are very long lived here. And parsley. Oftentimes I can have parsley that lasts for several years. Parsley I can go either way. They do so well from seedling, but I have had some success getting it to come up from seed also.
It's hard to get parsley to germinate. I have had trouble with it. What's got any tips on that?
Gosh, mine was direct sow and it was hot outside. So I wonder if perhaps it likes it really, really hot.
Okay. All right. That I would not have, I would plant it right now. So I'm going to hold a packet of parsley and try it in the hot weather and see if that mean, we might have all just learned something really important here because parsley is so good for you, healthy and yummy. So, all right. When do you tell someone not to buy something and people don't listen?
There are some folks that are really, really eager to start their gardens when it's just too cold.
Yes.
Just too,
Put the basil down and back away.
yes. Though honestly, at many garden centers, mine included, the garden center managers and owners work really, really hard to cultivate trust in their customers, and they will not carry those things when it's too cold. I believe that my customers put so much trust and faith in me that it would perhaps be dishonest, borderline being dishonest for me
Yeah,
to have basil for them to purchase in early March when it's
I
just too
totally
cold,
agree.
right? I value and respect our relationship between us and the customers. It doesn't mean that they can't find basil out in the world someplace else, but I really, really don't have to experience them not listening because I just won't carry it. I just won't carry it. I want a customer to come in and have full faith in whatever my selection is, are things that are going to do well in their environment and it be timely for them to install.
So, in my experience, when I go to big box retailers, like I don't want to name names, but I'm going to name them, Lowe's and Home Depot, they are not careful about putting out things that are not ready to go out, and the staff doesn't know. You could ask the staff, and they're like, they might know, but they're not trained like that. My garden centers in my area are really good about only putting things out that can go out now. And if you even if you tried to buy a tomato seedling right now, they'd be like, don't take that and then they'd give you instructions for it. So this is another reason to really get to know your garden center. All right, so let's talk about when is it appropriate to ask for a discount. Like I think a lot of people don't realize what a great time it is to shop in September. Garden centers are empty. They've got stock they need to get rid of. Or maybe I'm walking through your garden center and I've got my cart full, but I find this peony that looks like it's on its last legs. What is the appropriate way to ask the garden center staff, like, could I get a discount on this right now? And could I just say, I only ask this question because money is so tight right now and I'm just trying to help people out.
That's a great question. And money is so tight right now. And oftentimes it's really tight for garden centers too. And
Yes.
they're going to be looking for opportunities to make a sale, even if it is at a little lower margin. Maybe they do have a peony that has a broken half, and they would much rather receive something for it than nothing. So the right way to ask for a discount in a garden center is to just really nicely go up to one of their experienced staffers. The newbie that's checking people out is probably not the right person, but go up to one of their experienced staffers and say, just super politely, hey, I was looking at this peony. It's got this little broken side. Would you consider any sort of discount on it? I'd love to take it home with me today. And
That's
you go
perfect.
into it, right? Knowing that maybe they'll say, no, I'm really sorry, I can't do that, and nothing lost. But you won't get a yes unless you ask. And it could very well be that they didn't know it had a broken side, or they were going to mark it down anyway. And they might very well be just super excited for an opportunity to sell a slightly less than perfect plant anyway. Oftentimes, other garden centers will have a clearance section in the back too, where
Mhm.
they put these kind of ding and dent plants. In my garden center, it gets rotated, gosh, daily, because sometimes you end up with onesies and twosies left from a lot that is just not enough to make a display and you'd like to move them out. Sometimes it's out of flower items. Sometimes it's where maybe we order tomato seedlings and the varieties come assorted. And maybe we don't have any control over what varieties we get. And we end up with far more Roma tomatoes than the rest. So, in order to keep our display looking good and our selection supreme, we might pull some of those perfectly good Roma tomatoes to put on clearance just so it opens up the display space for those varieties that we want to make sure are represented in appropriate quantities. Another thing that you can consider is in the fall, garden centers have to prepare for winter. So oftentimes they need to unload a lot
Hmm.
of inventory, particularly perennials, things that die back to the soil in the wintertime. If they don't unload them somehow in the fall, then they need to store them over the winter, and storing things are costly. Maintaining things are costly. So you can find some really incredible deals at garden centers anytime like August through October, before they really have to put things away for the winter. And then lastly, if you're with a nonprofit, garden centers are some of the most generous, compassionate, small.
Oh, that's such a good point. What a great point. Thank you for, go ahead.
Absolutely. Garden centers are some of just the most generous, compassionate businesses out there, and we love to support your cause. So come in with a letter, send an email, pick up the phone and call, and just tell us about what kind of project your nonprofit is working on. We love when we hear about organizations who are maybe planting gardens for low income shelters or charities. We have a lot of folks who do that. We are so willing to participate with groups like that, maybe give them seed packets or soil or seedlings. Schools, we get a lot of schools that are maybe building community gardens, and we anything that encourages people to get out there in the dirt, and anything that encourages people to eat fresh, healthy food. We're there, and we are there to support any way we can.
I love that. All right, so don't go into your garden center, load up a giant bunch of carts, and then say, look, I'm buying so much stuff. Can I get a discount? Because they have to make a living. You would very much like them to be there next year. If the garden center staff says, I'm sorry, we can't give you a discount, don't give them a hard time. And I think I had a third one, but I forgot. Oh, don't overhandle the stuff. don't don't pick up stuff, overhandle it, drop it, break the stem off, put it back down, corral your kids. Folks, it's tight for everyone right now. They need to make money. And I really do encourage you to go visit regularly your garden center. Don't be just the April and May folks. There is so much good stuff that shows up in the middle of the season. You can't believe it. And then Valerie, you're going to love this. Last year at the end of the season, my daughter was getting married. So we were going to the garden center every week. We got there oh gosh, it was like early August, and I can't remember the name of the plant, but it was, I'd never seen it before. Tall spikes with blue flowers on it, absolutely gorgeous. And the garden center, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I go there all the time. I'm blanking on it. George, I think it's George. He said, do you want a discount on these? I was like, he offered it to me. And I'm like, why are you offering me a discount on these? And he said, because, and you're going to laugh, these only bloom late. They bloom summer to the end of fall. And so when they were green in the spring, nobody bought them. I bought hundreds of them. They all sat here. And because that's when people go, they go April and May. So people missed out on this incredible perennial. So just about the time when everything else is done blooming and you'd really like some color in your garden, this was spectacular. And I bought like 15 of them. So go back to your garden center like at least once a month, if not more often, and check and see what they have. You'll get color in your garden like from spring all the way to like Thanksgiving. And your garden center staff will know what that stuff is.
Absolutely. A great point is that many garden centers, most really, are going to be bringing in blooming plants when they're in bloom. So it's mid-spring right now. Our fall bloomers like Solidago, asters, Monarda, they're not in bloom yet. We might have them at the garden center, but they're going to look like little peewee, little green plants. Um, and if you're only buying color in the spring, you're going to only end up with spring blooming flowers in your yard. If you're able to visit, like you said, more frequently, once a month, then you're going to be able to see all of these different plants that bloom at different times of the year. And then if you're going for season-long color, that's how you can really see what is in season at what time and incorporate a little bit of all of those seasons into your garden.
Yeah, so I'll give our gardeners a great tip here. Don't buy what's in full bloom at the garden center because like Monarda is such a great example. It's like fireworks. It's so beautiful, but it's like 3 weeks tops. It's in bloom. Look for the one, because there's going to be plenty of people that are going to buy the ones in bloom. You go look for the ones that haven't bloomed yet. In the same section, it says Menard on it, which is bee balm. It'll have the color on it. Look at the one that's got some bulbs or like it's got some blossoms on it that haven't opened up. You're going to enjoy the entire show in your backyard. Let everybody else buy the stuff that's in bloom, right?
Good tip.
All right. All right. Let's talk about natives. Do you guys have natives in your garden center?
We do.
Great.
And we have had natives for, eons. For since we became a garden center, we had natives. They just really weren't identified as such. Now there is a great community that is finding that getting into natives is their on-ramp into gardening. Or they're existing, maybe they're already growing garden, they already have a garden to grow edibles like your uh, peppers and your tomatoes, and they're ready to expand their gardening world. Natives is a very logical, easy transition. For those of you who maybe don't know what we're talking about when we say natives, we mean plants that naturally grow in your region. And because of that, they can handle your climate, your water conditions, your soil better than many other options. So some common natives in my mid-Atlantic region are Monarda, which is bee balm, creeping phlox for early spring color. Those are fantastic. Black-eyed Susan. Itea, that's one of my favorites. It's actually a woody shrub that is deciduous. If
How do you
you
spell that, Valerie?
ITEA.
Got it. I'm going to look for that. Go ahead.
You're gonna love it. If you deadhead it, you can usually get 2 bloom cycles out of it, which is not super common for a shrub. And the pollinators absolutely adore it. So bluebells in my region are a great early spring native. So it's really a fantastic category. Sometimes it's just a different marketing spin on something that we've already carried for years and years, but it almost gives it a stamp of performance approval.
And it's there for the pollinators. So if you're trying to attract pollinators, we want to provide habitat because we're losing pollinators at an alarming rate from pesticide application and many other, like just destroying ecosystem and environment. If you plant natives, these plants have evolved over thousands of years with particular insects and particular bees. And they will find them in your backyard. And then while they're there, they're going to pollinate everything else. And it's really important. Can't tell you how many people who reach out for help and they like, why didn't I get zucchini? Why did this fall off? Why am I not getting any tomatoes or whatever the question is? I'm like, they don't have pollinators. And then they start to realize how critical that missing piece is. So ask your garden center about native plants. Most of them will know what they're talking about for that one. What are some other things that you would like the public to know when they go to their garden center? Is there stuff you wish they would check out that they don't? Is there just tell me oh, I wish everyone would just this.
I love anything that gets people to work in their yard. So I love it when I have a new visitor in the garden center or a returning face. I am so excited to see you. And I just wish that people would come more often. It's not just a once a year event. I love it when people can begin to think of gardening as an everyday habit. You do indoor chores. You probably have some outdoor chores that you can do on a regular basis. And once you think of your yard as an extension of your home and you begin taking the level of care for it that maybe you do for your dining room or your kitchen, and to work in it every day, to walk through it every day, to notice the changes every day, it just makes you appreciate it so much more. And it makes you want to improve it. And there's so many little things that you can do. Maybe come to the garden center and get one small little $5 plant to add to a corner or add to a pot, just to make your space that much more functional, that much more livable for you. I think for years, many Americans have been retreating more and more indoors. And now we're loving to get a little bit more time outdoors. And enjoying your yard is a free, relaxing
boost of serotonin. Yes, it will lower your stress level. And
so will walking through your garden center. You don't have to buy anything. Just come and say hi. Just come and
Absolutely.
see how things changed from the last time you were there. See what colors are there. See what new things have
Yeah.
arrived. We're so happy to see you, whatever the occasion.
Awesome. All right, a couple last questions here. Do you do landscaping services? Because many places do, many garden centers do, and most people don't realize that.
That's exactly right. Many garden centers do. And really, it is a pretty crucial income stream for probably over half of garden centers out there. My garden center does not. We like to focus on just our walk-in customers uh, because we found that that's how we can give them the very best experience. But I think some of the very best landscapers in the business are garden centers because they know these plants in and out. They have access to the very best suppliers and they keep up with trends.
So I don't want to give a bad name to any landscapers. There's so many really good ones out there, but very often someone got into landscaping because they started mowing lawns and they were entrepreneurial and smart and hardworking and they grew their business and started landscaping. And very often we encounter problems. I think my mother had a big problem with this for a couple years. They don't know what they're doing because they didn't get any training. And so that can cause problems. And again, not all are like that. When you hire a garden center, just like Valerie here, she literally grew up doing this. They really know their plants inside and out, and they're going to help you make, I think they make better choices for what can go in your garden, different choices, because a landscaper is making more a decision based on, if they don't have any design experience either, like, oh, I'm always going to put these same 6 plants in. And you come into a neighborhood sometimes and you see that every single house looks the same because they put in the same euonymus, the same boxwood, the same hydrangea, whatever it was. And a garden center probably won't do that. They're going to be like, hey, you would love this, and you'll get color till fall if you do this. So another good reason to use a garden center. All right, so the last question I want to ask is about little garden festivals. I went to one a few weeks ago. I had the best time. They had little vendors. They had the AWA was there with some animals. My mom and I bought all this stuff. We had the best time. Is that something that you've seen garden centers get into, and have you tried that yet?
Gosh, yes. Garden centers, if you're listening to this, do these festivals. The community loves you and they love a reason to come and visit. My garden center is a little unique in that we are also a fresh produce market. We do probably 6 different festivals a year. Ours are primarily based around produce seasons, like a watermelon festival when the
Oh,
watermelons come into
fun.
harvest. So ours are primarily produce driven, but my gosh, we as a community just love a reason to come out, a reason to come together, and a reason to share space with each other. I'm sure you've read articles about third spaces, and I think garden centers can be a very, very pivotal role in the expansion of these third spaces that folks are craving so much.
I keep trying to encourage everyone I know who does what you do to do singles events because I have so many fantastic young friends that are single and they're like, it's so hard to meet people on the apps. And I'm like, if a garden center said like, hey, we're going to, everyone singles night over at the garden center. And then also for parents, it's rough out there finding stuff to do with your family on the weekend that doesn't cost money. And I have to say, some of the agritourism at farms has gotten really, really expensive, but I don't find farmers festival or garden center festivals to be like that. You can normally go get an inexpensive hot dog or a snack or a cup of coffee. They often have a lot more to do than you think they do. Like they'll have something for the kids, they'll have an expert you can ask questions, and then maybe you spend some money there, maybe you don't, you get to know them. But what a great way to get your kids outside and there's something for them to do. And you might not realize if you just see a garden center festival advertised that it's way more than just go to the garden center that weekend.
Absolutely. And I'll also add, as a little added fun thing for the garden center third space, garden centers a lot of times have a shop cat. And who
Oh,
doesn't love
I
getting
love,
to,
they all
yes,
do.
yes,
Yes.
get to know your garden, get to know your local garden center shop cat because
What's your shop cat name?
boo boo.
Boo Boo. All right, well, now I have to meet Boo Boo at some point. At some point, you have to send me a picture of Boo Boo. I have 3 garden cats. Oh, that is hilarious. So get to know your garden kitty, unless you're allergic. Oh,
We
yeah.
have 5 pigs too.
Did the pigs all have names?
Yeah, they do. Are you ready for them?
Okay.
Okay. So Penny is our original. She is a teacup pig. She is turning 15 this summer. And speaking of festivals, we generally would have a big birthday party for Penny the pig. I think there was one year she had 800 people in August, and it was 100.
Yeah, she did. I'd go see Penny the pig.
Then we got Arnold. Arnold is a gigantic hog. We received phone calls from the surrounding community saying your pig is loose. Our pig was not, in fact, loose. And the loose pig in the area, ended up in the lot right next to us. So we caught the pig.
You're making this up. Oh my God. And Arnold got blamed for this.
So we call animal control. We said, we found the pig you were looking for. And they said, okay, well, can you just keep it?
Yeah, I'll just keep your pig for you until you come get it. He picked the right parking lot.
Absolutely. Arnold is now probably, I don't know, 600 pounds. And then we love teacup pigs so much, and our Penny is aging, so we figured she needed some little young, sprightly things to liven her day. So enter Fig, Fern, and Susan. The
Fig Fern and why Susan? Why not Fig Fern and Fluffer?
well, it's black-eyed Susan. They're all botanical or fruit or vegetable
Got
names.
it. All right, gardeners, the last thing I'm going to say here before I let Valerie go is the number one thing you can do for the garden center that you love is when you go there, take a picture, hold up what you just bought and say, I'm so excited to go put this in the ground. Valerie's Garden Center has their tomato seedlings in, or look at this beautiful pot, and then tag them. They will love you. They will remember you when you come in. And when it's September 31st and you say, can I have half off this peony that looks dead? They're going to be like, yes, you can. And you'll send business their way. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. Word of mouth, sharing your community with us is the highest form of flattery and the best gift you can ever give a garden center.
All right, 2 questions for you. What is your favorite thing to grow in the garden? We're doing veggies here. Veggies or fruit?
I love yellow pear tomatoes.
Okay.
Little cherry tomatoes that are pear-shaped, yellow. I love those. I think they elevate a caprese platter. I think they're so tasty and so fun.
I love those too, but then I love all tomatoes. All right, and then last question. You could eat a meal anywhere. I'm taking you out to dinner anywhere. Where are you going? And it could be your grandmother's house. It could be a famous restaurant. It could be anything. Where are you going?
Disney World, obviously. Epcot.
What are you eating at Epcot?
Anything. Anything.
Okay.
They have
You
these
surprised me.
little
I was
kiosks.
not expecting that answer.
Yeah, we're going to Disney.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Disney, Valerie. So, Klein, are you a Disney fan like Val?
No.
Wait. Are you a Disney fan at all?
I'm a Disney fan. I love Disney. Because I grew up on Disney.
Like the movies and all that stuff?
Like the movies and the princesses, and I am one of 3 girls, so.
But you don't like going to the parks?
I do like going to the parks. I haven't been since I was like 16.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if I would like going without small children.
Well, and at this point in your life too, a lot of people want to go see the rest of the world.
True.
And then you have kids, and then you're like, oh, let's go to Disney. But then there's other people who are like, I would go to Disney every year for the rest of my life. They are hardcore Disney fans.
Yes, I'm not to that extent. But I do have a question about garden centers.
Yeah.
Where did plants come from that they put out? Because I was at our local garden center the other week. Not for me, for my mom. And I saw them unloading the truck. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, that's like carts and carts and carts of little seedlings. Like, who's doing that?
That is actually counted as part of agriculture. So when they do the agricultural census by the USDA, they will list all the farms that are just growing seedlings and flowers and all the plants that go to garden centers, because garden centers is a huge business. So they have hoop houses, which is like a greenhouse, like miles of them. And they start all those seeds in December, January, February, so that they'll be large enough to show up at your garden center, so you can plant them when they're already big at your garden center.
Can I just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to start a hoop house?
You can, yeah. That company I worked with, yourgreenhouses.com, sells not only greenhouses, but hoop houses. And there's all different sizes, shapes, styles, some with doors, vents. Some of the smaller farms here in the town where we live have hoop houses. I can show them to you. And I've been recommending them for people because they're much cheaper than a greenhouse.
So a hoop house is like an actual thing. I thought you just meant like it means that you're growing seedlings in it.
No, a hoop house, it's named, I believe it's called that because they're circular. It's like metal or plastic hoops that are arch, and then it's got, most of the time it's like a very thick plastic over the top of it, and then they'll punch a door in the front, and it'll be lined with rows of tables, or sometimes you plant right in the ground. And it's a great tool for someone who is very worried about food security, wants to grow their own garden, but like say you're in a very cold climate, or say you're in a hot, dry climate, but you can climate control it, and you could literally grow better in the hoop house all of your fruits and vegetables than outside it. So it's used by farms all the time. They couldn't live without them, and I'd like to see it explode a little bit more with homes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, I have a question for you.
Sure.
We wrapped up talking to Val about things that you shouldn't do at a garden center. What should you not say to someone who is videoing you or taking your picture or taping you? What are the things people say to you that you're like,
what's funny? I was actually thinking about, I want to add to her list of things you can do to support your local garden center, because another thing you can do is go on social and like just support what they're posting, because you said absolutely post that you're there and that they're open and what they have, and you absolutely should do that.
but sharing their content.
So share their content and like everything they put up, and leave a comment and like tag other people in the comments, so that Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, thinks that they're so popular and will show their stuff to more people.
Yeah, repost their stuff. That's great. I do that for Flag's Garden Center because we love them. And yeah, and I love helping a small business too. Most of these places, I'm going to say 99%, if not 100, are family owned by a small family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Let's go to the garden center.
Okay. I was just there, but okay.
I always want to go.
It was nice. It was very nice. Ooh, I can't tell if flowers are real or not. And I feel like this is a problem.
What?
Because I've been trying. So it turns out buying flowers weekly costs a lot of
It's
money.
very expensive.
Which I didn't realize. In my head, I was like, it's $25, it's fine. And then I did the math and I was like, that's
A lot of money.
$100 in a year. And I was like, I don't have $1,200 to spend on flowers, but I really like flowers. So I was like, oh, I'll buy fake flowers. And then like each week I can buy like a $5 bouquet.
And then, well, you could even mix them too, and no one will know.
Yeah, exactly. So like I was at the garden center and I was just looking around and I saw these really pretty flowers inside, and I swear they weren't in dirt, but they could have been. I don't know.
They probably were not real if they were inside.
Oh, man.
Because that garden center has a whole beautiful fake flower collection there, and they look real.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wait, did I find it? But I didn't know. And I was too embarrassed to ask someone.
Next time we go, I'll take a look for you. Okay, good. But yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Great.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.